Hello, everyone. Welcome as you all start coming in. Welcome to the Banner and Backbone Network. Today, we've shifted over our vet talk from the Sick of This Shit with Nick channel to the Banner and Backbone because that's where it really belongs. Because that's what Banner and Backbone's about, is patriotism, rebuilding civics, and an understanding. And Kris Goldsmith is one of those people that really embodies the ideal of rise, which is what we're trying to bring about for everyone, which is restoring integrity, service, and ethics into the American ethos. And Kris Goldsmith is someone who's doing that. He's an Army combat vet. He's an advocate. He's a patriot. And he speaks out where it's needed. So we wanted to bring him back. Welcome, Kris. It's good to have you with us today, my friend.
Thanks a lot, brother. And congratulations on all the success of your network. It's been pretty cool. You've been popping up on the charts. Like it's been cool to watch. So congrats to you guys.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much. And hey, we've been inspired by guys like you, man. Like we were just like we felt like we needed to do more, dude. So we're like, that's why we said that's how Banner and Backbone kind of came about, was we're like, what more could we be doing? And so 3 of us got together and said, let's do this. So, yeah.
And you haven't met our third yet, but I'm hoping you will at some point. Lawrence Winterman, he's a sci-fi writer, an incredible advocate he's been very civically minded his whole life. He's a Gen Xer who is a bit of a misfit for his gen because he was civically minded and he cared. And he's written some incredibly powerful pieces. And one of them I actually would love to get your thoughts on before we get into any like super big news or veteran related issues. Mochi, hold on, dude. You can wait. Sorry, my dog is scratching at the door. His name is Mochi, one of them.
I have a small dog named Frosting, and I think he might be doing exactly the same thing right now.
Frosting?
Okay. I love it.
I've got a small little cat that will probably run through. Every time I open my laptop now, I got a kitten that runs through. His name is Momos, which apparently is Greek for dumpling.
So I spent like 10 years in professionalized veteran advocacy, like testifying before Congress, like getting laws passed. And then I found a dog on the side of the road and tweeted about it. And it went so viral that if you started typing in my name for years, I don't know if this is still the case, but like the auto-populated search result was Christopher Goldsmith dog. So
that's amazing.
All of the work that I've done in my entire life, like, was overshadowed by me finding a dog named Frosting, which went super, super viral. So he got a write-up in the Dodo, which was a pretty big deal.
That's awesome. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, and I think everybody thinks it's hilarious, like a bearded, tattooed veteran, like, who is generally pretty angry all the time, like walking around with Frosting looking for his mommy. It's like a children's like storybook or something. So
I'd buy that. I would buy that. I would buy that story. Like, I'd buy it.
We actually we had a theme going with our pets' names. At least the new ones we were trying to go with a Marvel theme. So one of our dogs is Dr. Bruce Barkner.
Nice.
Instead of Dr. Banner. And our snake is Bucky the Slither Soldier Barnes. And so we tried to stick with a theme, and then we were in an old house, and this dog, Mochi, decided to break into our backyard in a gate that opened out. He broke into it, and we found a new dog, and we eventually found his owners, but they got him back. He broke into our yard 3 freaking times. We even had a cinder block put in the way for him to not be able to open the gate, and he still got in. And the owners were finally like, well, he seems to like you guys, and we can't have him indoors. Do you want him? And we're like, yes.
Awesome.
At this point, he is. And he is just ridiculous. Dogs are amazing.
I love a good pet origin story. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And hey, superheroes got to have origin stories, right?
100%. Yeah.
And pets are superheroes. So going back to what I wanted to, so as we get off task and on tangents, because that's what we always do with when you get people together. Just, I mean, we can throw in crayon colors and we'll get Fred on a tangent all on his own. Um,
Um, oh my God.
is one of the main focal points of Banner and Backbone is civic minded, is
Hmm.
being civically minded and civically engaged. So we wanted to sort of put things out almost in the style of like Federalist Papers, um,
Hmm.
where they're commentary, where it's more natural, but it's our thoughts, but it's all wrapped around civics. So Lawrence Winterman, like I said, is incredibly civically minded, and he's for this long time had this idea of a civilian's oath, or the citizen's oath. It's an optional oath that he has put together based on research from what congressional members have to do for an oath to the Constitution, what the president does, what the military does, what every other service that we consider a service to the government typically does is they take an oath of office. And so he put one together that would be optional. And I wanted to read it aloud um, for you and get your thoughts on it, because I think now's the time when citizens can and should be the most engaged. Um, and you don't have to be a vet or sign up for Congress to be civically minded and to know that it's your duty as a citizen to protect your country. Um, so I'm going to read the oath, and I just want to get your thoughts on it.
Okay.
So I'm going to read it as though I am actually saying it, because I've said it now, and I'll do the whole raise my right hand and say, I won't say the last part. There's an optional, so help me God. I don't believe in God, so I don't say it, but we optionally put it in there for those who do. Is I, Nick Perro, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the rights and responsibilities afforded to me as a citizen of the United States of America.
I like that. I like
Yeah.
that. I mean, the crux of it, right?
Yeah.
Your last line was that I will exercise my rights and responsibilities. Uh, it- these these two things, I think, and over the arc of my life, I think about the way that I've thought of these things in the past and how it's those have kind of balanced. And a lot of people, and I've been there, Americans are all about the rights, but kind of forget about the responsibilities. Like you
Yes.
they're things that we can't have without one another. You can't just have the right to do, the right to act on other people or other things without having a responsibility to care for anything, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I like it. I think that the that civic mindedness is something that um, I I grew up feeling. That's why I joined the Cub Scouts. That's why I joined the Boy Scouts. That's why I always wanted to serve in the military. But I don't think that America should make the mistake, as I did when I was a kid, of being like, in order to be a patriot, you have to serve in that
Yeah.
kind of way.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a really, really good point you brought up right at the end. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is a good point, but the one you brought up right at the end is service doesn't mean military,
Mhm.
doesn't mean you have to join the military. Can you talk about other service types that people can do, especially right now, in ways people can really be engaged?
Yeah, I mean, 10 years ago, I was part of an effort to like encourage public service in like AmeriCorps type stuff. Like there are neighborhoods that could benefit from teachers and doctors and EMS and law enforcement, all sorts of stuff, right? I would love to see more opportunities in the United States for people to get the best parts of the military experience without the worst parts. And I think the best parts of military experience, like everyone that I served with, like we loved basic training. And it wasn't about the push-ups. It wasn't about the crawling through mud shit that they put on commercials, right? It was about building friendships with people with whom you thought you would have nothing in common with. I grew up in Long Island in, what would be considered, I think, not considered, it is one of the like wealthiest counties in America, right?
Mm.
It's not necessarily the way I felt growing up, but that is what it is. My
Yeah.
best friend from basic training, who I'm still close with today, grew up as a farmer, a farmhand in Wisconsin. Like we never would have had anything in common, but for the desire to serve together. And I wish that more Americans had the opportunity to do something between public service, the way that we think of it in like the military or another government job, and college. Like doing something where you can go and perform tasks together. Whether that's disaster relief or firefighting or something like that, especially for young men, because of the way we're wired. I feel like that would improve so many people's lives. Again, that was 10 years ago. Do I think that's possible now? Absolutely not. I did think it was very possible back then, and hopefully we'll get there soon. In the meantime, what people can do now is simply show up.
Yeah.
Democracy takes work. Most of the people historically who have worked, around voting, doing things like counting ballots and all that shit, like the actual like doing the voting part, the work behind the voting. Those people are generally ancient, right? Because
Yeah.
there have not been young people stepping up into those things. That is not a high commitment thing. It's not something that you have to do every day all around the year. Like it eats up very little bit of your life, but it is so critical to democracy. So things like that, people don't think of often, but that's like a great way to serve your community.
Yeah. 100%. And I think part of the thing we talk about, and you see this even in popular culture, is like America's about freedom, right? So it's really just about, they only talk about the freedom part. They talk
Mhm.
about what you can do, what you're allowed to do, like, but they don't talk about the things that are required as an obligation to keep that machinery going, to
Mhm.
keep that freedom there. So, and like you said, I remember just, and again, it's most of the people that are organizing. I've been through, campaigns here in East Tennessee and in Virginia, just from the volunteer level. It's, it's the boomer generation. It's
Mhm.
the baby boomers, right? And, or people that are poll watching or that are volunteering or just doing these small things. And there are young people out there, but I think that there's a lot of them don't understand, like, oh, this isn't a big time commitment, or
Mhm.
maybe they're scared of it and they're like, oh, well, yeah, like, oh, it's be talking to people is going to be so difficult. No, actually, it's, no, I'm going to get harassed if I knock on doors. No, actually, you'll find you'll have very pleasant conversations with people.
Mhm.
It's not as bad as you think it will be, or if I'm not protesting, I'm not doing something. No, there's other things you can do, right? There's a bunch of things you could do. So, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Chris. That's a good point.
Yeah, one of my organizations, Veterans Fighting Fascism, our big project is promoting the idea of these anti-fascist book clubs. If you visit our website, veteranfightingfascism.org, it's like the primary thing on our website. Several pages, comes with an instruction manual. I'm pretty sure I put up the PDF so you can print it all at once with a single button. If I haven't done that, I'll do it today. And the idea of these anti-fascist book clubs is not just so that people can learn from history about, what does fascism and authoritarianism look like, and how did anti-fascists, whether it was in Italy or Germany or Spain or anywhere else, how did they fight back and regain democracy? It's about getting people in the same places together, and that may not feel like public service, like socializing, but it really is. We in the United States, and especially in the COVID era, in the internet era, have lost these third places. Like when I grew up, everyone used to go bowling. Like Friday night, like kids would go bowling or to the skating rink or whatever, or the arcade. Like those types of things don't really exist anymore.
No.
The VFW and the Legion halls are certainly not for our generation what they were for our grandparents' generation. These anti-fascist book clubs are an excuse for people to reach out to their friends, their neighbors, their family, or strangers in their neighborhood and build something in common together. And the primary goal behind these is to get people to engage in local politics. And local politics doesn't mean running for office. It doesn't always mean like going to school board meetings, though I encourage that type of local politics. It means building a local culture that rejects fascism, authoritarianism, and hate. This may sound like a simple solution to a complex problem, but it is. It is a simple solution, right? Not every complex problem needs a PhD level study and a 50-point fucking plan. Getting out and forming new in-person relationships are a way to kind of invest in democracy and to serve your community.
100%. And and someone mentioned in the chat is like, well, or one of the reasons that baby boomers show up more is because they're retired. It's like partly, but it's also partly because of how that generation came up. And to Chris's point, they were raised in a generation where being in a community space like a roller rink or a bar or a park or a game or a little league game, all that was just normalized, whereas social media has sort of taken us internally. That's part of it, but it's also part people are working more. The thing that's not going that is going to be inescapable, it requires some kind of level of commitment. If you want your democracy to get better, there is going to have to be some level of commitment. That doesn't mean you have to go protest. That could be something as simple as you would give someone a ride to a protest. Or, one of the barriers for, you say, young millennial families to go to a political meeting that I've seen this when I was organizing is they don't have anybody to watch their kids.
Mm-hmm.
So if you volunteer with a few people, like, hey, a lot of these are at usually a school. You know what? We'll set up a little daycare. We'll watch the kids, 3 or 4 of us. You drop them off. And then, then you guys can go attend a meeting for an hour. Right.
Yep.
And we'll watch the kids. So you're not trying to get a babysitter. So you're eliminating these cost prohibitive measures. Or maybe it's like, oh, they're going to run a daycare. So it's like, we'll create some, we'll chip in, or we'll make food and snacks and we'll do this. It's a community effort. But yes, there's no escaping that. There's going to be some commitment.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're really trying to push with this obligation kind of talk is like, you are going to have to commit some kind of obligation or commitment to your community, but it doesn't have to just be protesting in the street. It doesn't have to be running for office, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And democracy is and human relationships are all about exchanges, right? If it only goes one way, it's a parasitic, unhealthy relationship, right? And I think that when we encourage people to start their own organizations, they don't need to be nonprofits. They don't need to have a budget. Just an organization, a group, a club of people. You can use Facebook as your backbone, like a Facebook group or a WhatsApp group or a Signal group or whatever. Like you don't need a ton of infrastructure. And you can solve a lot of problems just by having an excuse to be more social. And as a new parent myself, I am learning you really need to. It takes a village. Finding babysitters to go out and do adult stuff isn't easy all the time. So yeah, it's that what you're saying really resonates.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, as a parent of two kids going through that phase too, it's a lot. It takes, and even as they, especially as they get older, you have to have people there who want to be a part of their community and want them to be a part of the community. Um, and I think parenthood is a good example, microcosm of democracy, because that's what it is. It's a community coming together to support each other. Are there ways that you think that we could do things? Because we're at a point where we need to be actively resisting in as many peaceful ways as possible. And you put up a video yesterday that was really encouraging around the idea of pushing the bounds and pushing the structures of the law that are in place, because I mean, immoral laws are still immoral and we should push against them. Um, is what do you think of, because one of the things we've talked about for Banner and Backbone a little bit, and I've talked with Melissa Corrigan, who I'd love to introduce the two of you together to. She's a Navy vet and an incredible advocate. Um, and
Bit of a potty mouth, though. Just a little
bit of a pot. She's got that Navy mouth.
and potty mouth,
Is the idea of a foundation and something that doesn't have as many like restrictions as say 501c3s, simple things that you can set up together as groups like the Banner and Backbone Network, where we are encouraging contributors to come together and then we're donating all the funds. Like our goal isn't to make money on this, it's to donate. Like our first drive is all about Epstein and releasing the Epstein files. Do you think things like that are a great way for people to, or are a way for people to get involved and be able to make either contributions or get more active than just sitting around?
Yeah, I mean, low commitment actions are a good entryway into high commitment actions. Trying to make the price of entry as low as possible to get people motivated to do stuff is kind of the foundation of all sorts of, I'm going to say political organizing, but I mean in a broader sense of organizing.
Mm-hmm.
It is people. I can speak for myself. I find work rewarding. I find, seeing the fruits of my labor accomplish good to be very rewarding. And I think that a lot of folks don't have the opportunity, whether it's because of their chosen career path or because of their family obligations. They don't have that same dopamine hit that I might get from posting a video about the history of the radical Republicans saying, I don't care what the Constitution says, we're going to pass the 14th Amendment and give all of these formerly enslaved people citizenship. Like, fuck you, racist Southern Democrats. That's what they did, right? That's what the video that you talked about, which was informed by Tad Stormer, who you should absolutely follow on Substack, Twitter, TikTok, and the rest. But these giving people an easy way to do something that they can see the results of and they know that they've accomplished some good. If it's a click, if it's a like, if it's a share, those things matter. When I rarely send out emails on my nonprofit. I have a policy of one email a month because I hate getting swarmed with emails asking for money. I rarely ask for donations explicitly. Instead, I say, hey, here's a video that you can share, or here's a new thing on our website that you can share. And I think that people get more out of that personally for them than they would giving me $1. And maybe, I don't know, I haven't put too much thought into it, but I think I have a hypothesis that people will reward my nonprofit for giving them those easy, low commitment opportunities. And hopefully creating that feedback loop at the very entry level, someone sharing the Anti-Fascist Book Club online, that's easy. That's no commitment there. But to start their own Anti-Fascist Book Club, that's asking a lot of them. And I think if I can reward them, they're getting their own likes, they're getting their own shares online. That little dopamine hit, it is important. It might feel stupid sometimes, but it's not. If we can encourage more people to engage in that kind of activity, we can get more high commitment actions, kind of like an organizing funnel. You start with the easy, and then you work your way into people who become professional organizers, or finding other ways to serve their community.
So with that, one of the things that we've talked about, Melissa Corrigan and I, and we talked about it on the 24-hour live for everybody, because we're big into the idea of transparency. We want to talk about everything we're planning to do so that everyone in the audience also knows what we're doing and how it's going to help and how they can feel involved in doing that. Because we love the feedback and the engagement from the audience helps us, and it also helps you guys because you're staying engaged too. Just like Kris said, it's low involvement. Is so leading that is the Anti-Fascist Book Club is a great starting point for a lot of people. What do you think of the idea of us starting one online as a video version where we bring people together and we have them, say, on Substack, come in and almost do a book club online and encourage them to start that process, because then maybe they can bring it home? Do you think that's a good starting place for even making it easier for access?
I would love to see that happen. Um, uh, if if anybody did that, if you guys did that, I would be so fucking thankful. And being able to direct people to, oh, you can't, you're a blue dot in the middle of a sea of red. You live in fucking Nebraska. Like, I get it. You can't start your local book club. Someone doing the online version, consistently would be tremendous. When I first came up with this idea, it was in a TikTok video. Like, I didn't have a fucking plan.
Mhm.
It got 1 million views, and a bunch of people started their own anti-fascist book clubs. Like, out of nowhere. I wasn't telling people to do it. I was just like, hey, here's a bunch of books you should read because Trump just won the election and we've got 2 months before he's in the fucking White House again. That's how this idea started. So there were a ton of folks who started these TikTok based book clubs, and read a bunch of the introductory books. But doing it on a platform like yours would, I think, reach a lot more people and do a lot more good.
Okay. That's amazing. Thank you for that feedback, because we want to make sure that the value that we're providing is actually helpful to people. Because if we're not doing something that's helpful, that keeps people engaged or helps people get more engaged, we don't really want to do it. Like, we want to make sure that, because it's something I quantify on my Palin talk with Shane Urick, because we talk about Palantir and
Mhm.
the techno-fascist takeover and all that stuff. Is yesterday's episode was titled "Minimizing Your Metadata While Maximizing Your Impact," and this feels like that sort of concept. Is you're minimizing your effort to maximize your output. Um, so let's find ways to minimize our effort, because we all are overburdened. Like Kris said, we're all fucking overburdened. We're all tired. We're all beaten down. We're all worked our asses off. A lot of us are broken in many ways. And like, we have to just keep pushing and keep going, because we know there's going to be something better on the other side, because we're going to make it better. And
Yep.
we're going to make what happens next right. Well, I guess left in this case, because we've gone right enough. Maybe we should turn left this time. Um, what do you think about, because I know there's a lot going on in terms of people starting to announce runs for Congress, for open seats in local elections, small, big, whatever. How do you think people can best engage with, without the need for, say, financial support,
Mhm.
with those who are going to start running or who have announced their runs?
Um, that's a good question, and keeping it with the theme of low commitment, uh, engaging with politicians' content, and their supporters' content, which is often far more impressive and important. That stuff matters. We, I say we, I mean like us three.
Yeah.
I feel like each of us is probably a little skeptical, maybe a little jaded by everything social media, right? With that said, we're still here, right? So we've got
Right.
some level
Yeah.
of like, okay, we're going to try and make it work. I think that in the back of our head can stop us from doing things like seeing a video of a politician or a supporter that we like and taking the time to leave a comment, something like that. Those things actually they matter. And if you just want to throw in a couple of emojis or like a video, just share like super low commitment. Those things get rewarded in the algorithm. If you are seeing good ideas online, sharing them, emailing this video when you guys post it as a Substack post, someone takes this and forwards it to somebody, or gifts a free subscription to your outlet. Like those, it's all free. Takes just a few seconds that can help get positive messages in front of more people, because the algorithm is generally reward outrage and
Right.
negativity.
Yeah.
We have to make a conscious effort to engage with positive content more, because the human reaction, I'm not blaming anybody for this, the human reaction is you are more likely to engage with outrageous negative content, and we have to train the algorithm to start rewarding better, healthier, more positive content that supports our democracy instead of erodes it.
Yeah.
I love that, Fred. I'm going to cut you off for a second because we were just talking about that earlier with Walter Ryan. And I want you to be able to jump in too, because I think you made a really, really good point just a little bit ago about how we frame conversations and how we can use our words in a different way to change from negative to positive.
Yeah. Are you talking about me?
Yeah, you, Fred. You said something good this morning,
No,
brother.
yeah. Like, so we were talking about, Chris, we were talking about like the trans athletes issue, right? And
Mhm.
I said, the problem we have in our politics is we always use the right wing framing, right?
Mhm.
We get caught up in that so much. And so one of the things you can do is when you're talking about these things, or even politicians, is, you know, they happily try to engage in this right wing framing, thinking, oh, well, we can outsmart the opposition or we can out argue the opposition. And the goal for them is to just get you to stall out. They don't
Mhm.
care, right? It's just a waste time. So when you start with something, you say, all right, I'll engage in the trans athletes issue, but we got to start from this place. Do you consider trans people people? Because if we can't even agree on that, then I can't have this second debate with you, right?
Yep.
So I'll debate you on this if you say, well, no, I don't think they are. It's like, all right, let's unpack that, right?
Mhm.
Or just even how you're talking about masculine or men and women, right? These definitions matter, right? How you frame things matter. And
Mhm.
so when you go into this and you're engaging in this kind of thing, is like what I do is I put my values first and foremost, right?
Mhm.
So if it's, it's like trans people are people, full stop, full civil rights. That's what we're talking about. For women, body autonomy, they're people. They get it. Full stop. And you argue from that place. You approach politics from that place. You know. So that's why that stuff matters, because if you're constantly engaging in their framing, you're already a step behind. You're
Yeah.
not gonna. That framing is designed for you to fight to a draw or even lose, because they win if you fight to a draw. So don't
Yep.
even bother engaging in that. Just say, hey, do you believe this? No, I don't. All right, well, we can't have this discussion.
Yep.
Mhm.
We actually talked about this in today's episode of the Find Out podcast, and I don't think that I put it as concisely as I could have. And uh, when it comes to the trans issue, I want to be done with defending trans people. I want to go on offense for trans people. So
Yep.
whenever
Mhm.
the opposition brings up the trans issue, I just want to attack them. Like
Yes.
I because they're imposing a cost on me. I want to
Mhm.
impose a cost on them. I'm not going to have the debate because like you said, if they don't consider trans people people, then there is no debate.
No.
Instead, I'm going to switch straight to imposing some sort of consequence on them. And with that said, I have got a little girl that is waking up. So I have to.
Perfect. All
Thank
right.
you so much, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. We're going to keep going for a little bit because I want to finish out this conversation. Chris,
Yeah, let's do
thank
it.
you so much.
Dude, thank you for your time. Yeah.
Thank you,
I
guys.
look forward to seeing you again. Have a great day. Enjoy being a dad.
Catch you guys later. Bye.
Thanks, Chris. And I want to continue on what Chris was saying and what Fred was just saying is like, we need to change the conversation. It's no longer their conversation. It's ours. There was a void, a vacuum that we left wide open. And I wish I got to say it while Chris was still here, but the most of this conversation that we've had today was also or some of this conversation is also a continuation of the conversation we just had with Walter Ryan before, and is actually based a lot on today's Find Out podcast episode, because I watched it and I listened to it, and they were arguing these exact points and telling us we need to go forward. We need to go on offense. It's about defending, yes, but you can't win a game just by defending. You never score a point if you don't ever go on offense. Like, even football players, when they are on defense, if they get an interception, they don't just sit their ass down. If they got space, they run and they go on offense and they score what we like to call a pick six. Like, they get those points because they went on offense. They picked it and they ran with it. So it's time for Americans to do the same. Like, and we envy our football players. We envy our sports, our athletes, and those who do that, who go on offense when they get the ball or when they get on defense and they make a save and they make a stop. They don't just stop. They go on offense to win. So let's go on offense like that. Don't debate people if they think trans people aren't people. Don't debate people if they think gay people aren't people or don't deserve the right to marriage. If they say those things, go, okay, we're done. Like, that is a bad opinion. Tell them that it's a bad opinion, and then don't debate them on it. Frame it in your terms. Win the argument by making them go on the defense.
You might see me, sometimes I'll go after trolls and I do it to make a point, right? So I'll give you a little so back in the day, we're talking like the George W. Bush era. This is called, they used to have something called the Eagle Club, right? That's why I call a lot of this stuff the Eagle Jizz, because everything is always Eagle this, Eagle that, blah, blah, blah. And they would train young Republicans on how to, Steve Schmidt talks about this. They fight you to exhaustion, right? It's not about winning a debate. If they fight you to a draw, they won. They're just trying to expend energy, because you got to remember, they're the status quo. So they're going to fight. They're going to drag you into these useless debates. And you might have noticed this if you've ever fought with a right-wing troll and you're trying to engage in it in good faith, and they keep doing this, and you're like, well, if I keep arguing, and you get caught in this trap, and eventually you end up mad and frustrated. And so there was a troll on one of Ellie Leonard's posts yesterday, like the other day. And, he said something it was just like, oh, Daddy Trump this and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, let's make a point. I was like, so first thing I did was I basically said, yeah, he's doing so great with the U.S. economy and foreign policy. We're a joke, And he's like, well, you can't back that up. And I was like, okay, here's 4 sources: Las Vegas, housing market, trade. I was like, hey, what about this? Boom. What about this? And so I went on offense and I overwhelmed him, right? I was like, here's a source from Forbes. Here's this from this. Here's this from this. And I did 4 points. And no, he's the best. And I said, oh yeah? Cite your sources. And I just kept repeating it. Go ahead and cite your sources. And it's CIT, cite, right? Cite it. Go ahead. And he just kept doing these weird gifs of Daddy Trump and all this, weird stuff. And I said, oh, so you got nothing? Like, all right. And that was it. And I did it to prove a point.
Mm-hmm.
I did this to prove a point because they have nothing. It's just
Yes.
slop propaganda. And you engaging with slop propaganda. So Nina asks, why are they status quo? Because they're in power, and they've been in power more often than not. That's why
And
they're status
be-
quo. And that's
and
why they are
because
status quo.
my bad, sorry, Fred, I didn't mean to talk over you there.
No, no.
And not only because they're in power, they're status quo because if you insult them or if you do anything that hurts their feelings, you get in trouble, not them. So
Yeah.
they're the new status quo because they've made that the norm. They've made that policy. They've made that their livelihood, and their idea of like masculinity is weakness and soft and gross and just pitiful. It's pitiful. I'm going to get it out of a gendered style terminology
Yeah.
because I think this is a word that everybody understands. Is it's pitiful and it's shameful the way they act. It's pitiful, it's shameful,
It is. It's
and it's
pathetic.
gross. It's just pathetic. They're just weak losers. They're losers who have gained power, who have convinced everybody else that you can't say anything to them because, oh, liberal snowflakes, this and cancel culture, that. It's just projection. That's why it's ego jizz. That's why
Yeah.
Fred
Yeah.
says it, is because it's projection, and they're spewing shit at you and grossness at you and telling you that's what has to be the status. And we've bought into it as a society, not us as individuals, but as a society and as a government. We bought into you can't push back on right wing people
Mhm.
because then you're offensive and mean and you hurt their feelings. It's why Charlie Kirk is so good at what he does, or Ben Shapiro is, because like Fred said, is they don't argue with facts. They
No,
just make you mad. Their whole point isn't to win the argument. Their whole point is to make you lose or make you give up. And if they
I
get
got
either of that, you win.
another call. I got to jump.
Yep.
All right, man.
No, you're
Peace.
good. Peace. Thanks, Fred. And so we're gonna close the show out. Yeah, you missed Chris Morgan. You came in a bit late. He had to go back to being a dad rather than a podcaster because kids are more important and life is important. Um, and so let's close this out today. This was an incredibly good talk about moving forward, actions that you can take locally, and how you can be engaged. And please stay tuned as we get some things in the work on the Banner and Backbone Network around an anti-fascist book club, and doing it virtually because we would like to encourage everybody in our audience to become members of an anti-fascist book club or start your own, and at least become our virtual members for anti-fascist book clubs. We're going to do it. We're going to try and do it like a normal book club would be, weekly if we can. We'll see what goes on. There's going to be some scheduling, there's going to be some planning, but look out for an online anti-fascist book club that you can join, because we're done being sick of this shit and we're getting ready to do this shit. So let's go have a great day, y'all. Thanks for joining us. Take a look back on the recording if you missed Chris. Incredible episode today, and we'll see y'all again soon. Thanks, everyone.